Hello everyone and welcome back to Arctic Retro. In this video I'm gonna take a look at this machine, a Commodore Amiga 600 HD. Now, before I start, I just want to inform you that the work on this machine has already been done. The finished machine is there and it has been retrobrighted and other work has been done. However, that work quickly became a disaster and I almost gave up and was ready to totally write off this machine as garbage and throw it away. The thing is that during the work of this machine I got really unlucky and also mistakes were made. So I was actually wondering whether to publish this video or not, but I decided I'm gonna publish it so that you can see what can happen and what can go wrong when you work with these machines. So hopefully it will be some value to you and that you learn something and learn by my mistakes, not at least. So I got this machine a few months back from a friend, my friend Robert, and it was quite dirty and very yellowed. That's been fixed up, as you can see. But otherwise the machine was working and did boot into Workbench. Alright, let's take a look at what happened to this machine when I did the actual restoration work a while back. Okay, let's take a look at this Commodore Amiga A600 HD. This machine I recently got from my friend Robert over at the RB Retro Bunker. You should check out his YouTube channel. It is in very nice condition except being very dirty, so that is the first task at hand, and that is to clean up this beauty. And as you can see, it is quite yellowed, or at least I can see it, but maybe it doesn't show on the video that good. But it is working. I have tested it and it booted from floppy, but not from the hard drive, and I don't really know if there is a hard drive in it, even though it came with a hard drive originally. I do collect Commodore machines, and this is one of the machines I don't had from before, so I'm really glad to have this one in my collection now. So let's open this up and take a look inside and remove all the plastic parts and start doing some restoration work with the cleaning and everything and see how it goes. As you can see, this has a Swedish keyboard layout with the Swedish letters Ö, Ä, Å. That's almost the same as the Norwegian. We have Ö, Ä, Å as well, but a little different characters. Yeah, and as you can see, it's quite dirty. There's a lot of grime between the keys and between the cooling fins here, or yeah, everywhere. And you can see the keys are very yellowed. The underside looks nice. The warranty seal is broken. It says here made in the Philippines. So just gonna remove the screws now and yeah, take a look inside. I haven't opened it before myself. There's a contact there and the keyboard. Put that to the side. The motherboard looks nice. There's some dust obviously here and there, and as we can see, there is no hard drive inside this. But that's one thing we're gonna take a look at later in this video. So if you haven't subscribed to my channel, or if you haven't hit that like button, I will really appreciate if you do. That actually helps boost the videos. Just one screw there. Yeah, and the other two were from the outside of the case. That floppy drive also needs a good servicing. Some of the issues that can happen with these Amigas are that the SMD caps could have started to leak. Get this motherboard out. It can be a little bit tricky to get this motherboard out because the contacts are protruding on both the side and the back, but if you bend the plastic and push the joystick port here up, it goes right over the edge, and then pull a little bit on this side and it should come up. Pull it back and it's out. I'm also removing the keyboard. It is not screwed in, it has just plastic clips. Alright, the case is free, and here you clearly see the difference between the original white and the yellowed plastic. So now this goes into the water bath. For the cleaning I usually just use some window cleaner first. Spray it in and let it work for a couple of minutes, and then just regular dish soap in hot water. The keyboard is extremely dirty. Oh my god. Look here, look all this. Some food has been spilled. So I'm taking off all the keycaps. Well, we have to clean this. As you can see, the keys are quite yellowed on the sides, not all the way down. So this needs to be retrobrighted. Spacebar. Yuck, look at all that dust. Spacebar has 2 additional smaller springs. So I think I'm gonna take this and vacuum it and then just clean off the plate with some isopropanol. And the keycaps gets the same treatment as the case. I vacuumed the keyboard and it looks a lot better, but still there's some stains here and there, so I'm just gonna spray with a little isopropanol and clean it up. There's a little bit of rust or corrosion starting to form on the edge of the metal. Just gonna scrape that off and use a little bit of WD-40. For retrobrighting the keycaps, I actually use these vacuum bags that are sealed, and I used a bit of hydrogen peroxide cream, massaged it real good around, and now it goes into the oven on 50 degrees Celsius. That was the keyboard, and while the keys and the case drying up, I'm gonna take a look at the floppy disk drive. Alright, let's take a look and see what we got. Maybe I should take out this floppy first. So I'm gonna take off the cover. This is a Panasonic drive. Has 2 screws here on the back. Okay, that doesn't look bad at all. A little bit dirty. A little bit gunk on this stepper motor axle. Just gonna clean away that. A little bit of isopropanol. I just roll it around a couple of times to get most of the dirt away. Then down below there is that metal rod, the drive rail. It looks clean, just cleaning a little bit extra. Yeah, and then just clean a little bit all over the place. Not much here actually. Finally cleaning the read and write head. At last I'm using a little bit of silicone grease on the stepper motor axle and down on that drive rail. Just gonna move the head all the way forward. Little bit there. Yeah, and this drive is good to go. Oh, one thing, this eject button is a little bit yellowed in front, so I think I'm gonna take it out and do a little bit of retrobrighting on it. So how was this? Push it up and then pull it out, yeah. Taking a look at the motherboard, at first glance it does look okay. As I mentioned, it is full of dust, so I need to take it down and blow it free from all the dust. So I was thinking about the recapping it or not, and I actually think I have to do it. It's not easy to see with the naked eye, but take a look here. These small S&D capacitors are known to be leaky after some years, and it might not be very easy to spot in the beginning. If you can see these two, the solder joints are shiny and nice. However, on this one, the solder joint here is very dull and almost like green, and seems like this little component here also is a little bit affected. So I'm gonna go through all and check them out, and yeah, and I think I need to recap this motherboard anyway. So then I need to take the board out of this metal case. A lot of these hex nuts here. There's actually one screw here at the side of the control port. I didn't notice that. Okay. Yay. Inside of the shield looks nice and clean. A little bit dusty. And the backside of the PCB, yeah, looks great. Can't see anything wrong at all. I have blown away most of the dust, but there's still something that is of course attached to the board, so I'm just gonna clean it up a little bit with some alcohol. Yeah, it gets dark pretty quickly. Now this motherboard looks spotless, very shiny. I just want to mention I have always used this blue IPA or isopropanol, this kind of stuff that I could get on like in paint shops or building shops here locally in Norway, because I couldn't get hold of a real strong 100% IPA anywhere. However, now suddenly I could get this one. It's called IPA Clean. It says 99.5% isopropyl. And in fact, using this blue stuff, which isn't that pure, always left some dull surface after cleaning. However, when using the new stuff, everything gets shiny and nice. Very nice board, A600 revision 1.5. So I think the Amiga 600 is one of my favorite machines. I don't know about you guys. What's your favorite Amiga computer? Write it in the comments below. Okay, so I think it's time to start recapping this. I am a bit anxious about that because it is not that easy. In fact, I have done it once before on an Amiga 600 board, and I had a bit of a problem there. I lifted a couple of pads, if I remember, and one reason it's difficult is because the components are very close together. And also behind this keyboard contact, there's two hard to reach capacitors there, and also here there's a couple of capacitors that's very near to this inductor here. So yeah, and I got this kit with all the necessary caps, also the big through hole ones from amigastore.eu. In order to prepare for the desoldering, I have written down this map of all the caps, all the values and the polarity. So it's gone a couple of days. I'm still sick and I have been to the doctor. It turns out I had something called bronchitis. So I have fever and a lot of hard coughing, but I can work on this machine in between all the coughing. Alright, I'm gonna desolder this inductor first, then this connector. I got most of the solder away, but it is still attached to the hole, so it needs a little bit more work. There it came out. Okay, let's see now if I can get this connector out of there. These are very small holes and my tip is a little bit too big, I think. I don't have a smaller one. Doesn't seem to wanna work with me. I have already added some flux there. I changed to another tip. It is a little bit thicker, but the hole is the same, I think. Also cleaned out this chamber. Well, let's see now if this goes any better. Yeah, maybe. But I'm starting to regret this. I'm not really sure if this is going to come out easily. We'll see. Nah, I think I'm gonna give up getting this contact out. As you can see, I got some of the holes free, but not enough. And I tried several different things. The manual solder pump and of course solder wick, but yeah. I can't simply clear these holes, and I don't want to use too much heat. I don't want to use air because that might melt the contact. So I think I'm just gonna resolder it again and try to get those caps out another way. I also tried adding fresh solder and sucking it up again, but that didn't help much. Okay, then we can start to remove the caps, and I'll start with the through hole ones, because these two are in the way of the smaller. One of the large caps comes out right between here in the row of resistors and capacitors, so I can't use my desoldering iron there, unless I want to risk removing the solder on the nearby components. Okay, that didn't remove anything. So working on these kind of modern PCBs is of course a little bit more difficult than the old 8-bit Commodore 64 boards. Okay, I think I got enough just to pull it out.
Again, this needs a lot of heat. That's one leg, and that's the other one. I think I need a new desoldering station because this is getting worse. It's kind of frustrating. Seems like almost nothing wanna bite on this board. Very hard to desolder. I just want to be really careful not to destroy anything. So one more to go of the big ones. Oh no, oh no, oh no, oh no. I just tried to pull this out and I pulled a trace. As you can see, it's still on the capacitor's leg. So I think I can save it. Let me just zoom in. You can see the damage. You see here. Yeah, that trace is lifted and the pad just swoop disappeared from the other side and hangs onto the end of the capacitor leg. But I think this can be saved. I didn't rip it off. Just need to clean up that and fix it. I haven't worked on a lot of the later Amigas, but my experience so far is that these boards requires a lot of heat. It's very difficult to desolder things, and the traces and pads are very thin and can easily detach. So yeah, so I guess I'll need to be even more careful. So there you have it, one damaged trace. So it's almost like I don't want to work on this board because it's too difficult, but then again I want to learn more, but try to fix this then. The other side is not connected to anything, so yeah, we can just hot wire this in some way. So I'm gonna start removing the electrolyte capacitors, and there's different ways you can do that. I'm gonna try a couple of different methods. The smaller ones you can just cut off at the base and then try to remove the pins with your soldering iron. The ones that doesn't have any components nearby, I'm gonna try and use hot air. What you should not do probably is use your soldering iron on one side and then try to bend the capacitor up to release that pin and then try to desolder the other one. I have done that before and that resulted in a lifted pad. But I'm not at all experienced with SMD soldering and desoldering, so I can't tell what works best. I'm just gonna try my way around and starting with these two with some hot air here. Using hot air, you risk that the capacitor can blow up if you direct the heat directly on the cap. I'll try to direct it under the cap. So let's see how this goes. Not using any excessive force, I'm trying to pull up the cap. Yeah, it's off. The next one. Yeah, that's off. I have seen some people just grab the cap with a plier and just twisting it around and just ripping it off, but that is very destructive. You definitely risk ripping off the pads then. But another technique I have seen is just cut it off at the base. Just push it down so that I don't excess force upwards. So now we can reach those pins and desolder them with the desoldering iron. And you should also be able to remove the plastics around. So now we end up with just the two pins, the legs of the cap, still on the board, and can remove those with the iron. Okay, so that was two ways of removing electrolyte capacitors that are surface mounted. Now I'm gonna remove all the remaining ones without filming, and then I'm gonna clean everything up. Alright, so I got most of the caps out except these two, and when I inspected them more closely I can see that the majority of the caps has leaked. The legs were all grey on many of those and had corrosion, and they were very difficult to desolder from the PCB, so I'm glad I did this then. No, the last two are these, and these are difficult. Not really sure how I'm gonna go about to remove those. I can see on the legs of these as well, they are very grey and blackish, so those have leaked too, and they will then be hard to desolder as they are now, so I think I'm gonna try and cut those. But it's hard to reach. I'm gonna cut, and that side cutter is too small. I'm gonna use this one just to squeeze them together. And also something I noticed when I desoldered the remaining pins was a very fishy like smell, so it indicates electrolyte. Just gonna squeeze them so I can use my side cutter to cut them in half. Probably not the best way of doing this, but yeah. Just want to cut the legs so that I can remove it. Okay, that came off, and as you can see that pin, it's all grayed up, full of corrosion. So it was almost coming completely loose already. Yes, and that last one ripped the pad next to the contact. That's very unfortunate, but I can see that trace goes there, so it should be fixable. And as you can see, this other one totally corroded. Okay, here you can see it clearly. The inner two pads are kind of okay. This one was very corroded. This one I ripped, and this one is all black. It won't take any solder at all, so this needs to be cleaned up real good. Okay, this is turning into a nightmare actually. I'm really disappointed now. So I decided that I actually had to remove the connector no matter what in order to access the solder pads for the two caps here, and I used hot air, and I actually managed to get it out eventually, but seems like there is some corrosion that has come over here as well. However, I managed to rip one of the holes up, and yeah, while many of the pins are not connected, this one is actually connected. It goes here, so I need to patch that up then. Yeah, and as you can see, I had vinegar, I have cleaned with IPA, and the pads are still very dull, so see if I can clean them up. Yeah, that seems to improve. And also this pad is missing, so I need to fix that. Now everything is off. I'm gonna start cleaning up all the pads for the capacitors, and alright, continuing, I'm gonna solder in some of the caps. However, something strange just showed itself. This little capacitor here, somehow I have cut off one of the legs. Here, I'm gonna zoom in. I have no idea how that happened. I can't remember I have cut that. I'm not really sure. Maybe it was a little bit corroded and I touched it. I'm not sure. I can't find any loose metal any place. Before I solder the caps, I'm gonna pre-tin the pads. First a little bit of flux. Then I have a little blob of solder on my iron. Soldering in these caps is quite much easier than desoldering them, and you see on the markings which direction they go. They're also marked with a plus, and you see the outline of the cap should correspond with yeah, the cap itself. Yeah, it's on. I just turn the board to get a better angle, and then I just adjust the other pins so that it aligns just by turning it a little bit. Yeah, it's down. And then I go back again and solder this all the way down. Yeah, I think that's good. That's solid. Then just do the same with the rest and see how it goes. Then I just feel and wiggle the cap a little bit just to make sure it's solid in both pins. Okay, all the small electrolytes are in except for the one here which needs a new pad first. And I must admit this is by no means easy. This is right on the limit of what I can do with my eyesight and equipment, I think. But I think all the ones I got in are solid. This lifted pad obviously went over to that via there, so I scraped off the copper there. I'm gonna make a little pad here from some pad strip and solder it on. Just gonna add a little bit of flux there, and then I'm gonna tin that little area. Something like that, maybe a little bit more. Then I have this little repair kit with copper strips. It has glue underneath, so it's kind of sticky. Then I try to place that down and make a little pad. Okay, I think that looks okay. Now I'm gonna try and solder it to the via there. That did not go well. Okay, I'm starting over again, but that's the idea. I'm gonna do it one more time, see if it works better. So I think I got it on there. It is sticking to the little remains of that trace, and if I measure, yeah, there's contact. So now I'm gonna use a little solder mask to pinch it down. And for that you need UV light, so I'm gonna shine a couple of minutes on it until it stiffens. Alright, this should be hard now. Yes, that's solid. Let's see now if I can move this strip a bit. Not very pretty, but I think it should work. Just use a little bit of solder mask. Okay, just to double check that I have a connection between the via and the homemade pad, I'm measuring from the back side and the other side of the via. Yeah, we have a connection. Nice. Obviously now when soldering in the capacitor. It might melt the first solder job there, but we'll see how it goes. Of course, if this doesn't work, I could always use just a regular through-hole capacitor instead and try and solder in it correctly. But yeah, let's try this first, and I have one 22 microfarad cap left. So I have turned down the temperature on the soldering station so that I don't risk melting or burning this little strip. Yeah, so let's put the cap in place and see how it goes. Yeah, it's stuck there. I soldered the other side as well. I didn't film that. It was hard to reach. I had to melt a little of this plastic, but that's okay. Leave a little bit trace, and I think this cap now is quite solid. Yeah, and we have continuity there. Now all those SMD caps are in, and I'm gonna finish the rest of the caps and also replace this small cap here. I actually ordered a new connector here. Just to be on the safe side, I'm gonna replace it with a new connector, and I'm gonna fix that trace there, obviously. Alright, the recapping is complete. I found a replacement for that one that was broken off, and soldered in the last cap there. And yeah, I'm gonna test now if this board still works. I'm not entirely sure of that after my little mishaps here and there. I connected it to my TV and the power supply. Let's turn it on and see. Nothing exploded. A white screen, that's a good sign. Takes a while for it to present the kickstart screen. Bang! Yeah, look at that. Kickstart ROM 2.0. Commodore Amiga. Nice. Alright, I think that's gonna be it for this episode. I'm not finished with this machine yet. This was the initial restoration and recapping, and yeah, I think I'm gonna stay away from recapping these kinds of modern Amigas in the future because it's simply too hard and too high risk, at least for me. However, I got it working, so the next step is gonna be assembling the machine and installing a hard drive solution, and then installing some operating system and games. So that will be in the next episode. See you then, and thanks for watching. Bye bye.